Hi. So we're going to be looking at the Essay 1 unit today, and specifically we're going to be working through the Master Guide to Academic Essay and the Unit 1 essay handout, and we'll probably be looking at the worksheet here a little bit as well. So let's go to our Brightspace page, and you're going to see on the table of contents let me try to minimize this thing right there. You're going to see the Essay Basics Review, right? And this is where you're going to find a lot of the master guides. This is a video about how to write a 5-paragraph essay that kind of really conforms to how I'm teaching you. So if you want to see a video of someone walking through with some, whiteboards and stuff like that, that might be another way of looking at it. And then, of course, the discussion board post on what is an essay. And then in Essay 1, you're going to actually see a description of what's in the modules below. The first submodule is where you'll actually submit your essay. This is not a proctored assignment, so when it's done, you just upload it here, but you will still follow the same naming protocols and the file requirements, so it reminds you that there. Then in the next submodule called the Essay 1 Instructions, you'll see the actual essay instructions and then the worksheet. And then in the module called Building the Essay Assignments, you're going to see the 4 different phases that you will turn in work to get feedback on the discussion board. Now, I'm doing this a bit differently. I have the worksheet for you to fill out, but instead of having you turn that in to me privately, I'm going to have you post your responses to the discussion board so you can get feedback from your peers as well as from me. So every one of these will open with a discussion of what we're doing, some examples, and then you'll see the discussion board link with the deadline for when it's due. When you click that link, it's going to open up to the board. You're going to see again a reminder of a lot of times how I want you to actually present the information. And then there'll be a little feedback rubric, 5 questions that I want you to answer when you respond to at least 2 other people who have posted their phase of the essay. Okay? So let's look at your master guide to essay and start looking at some of the steps in the writing process, because we've already looked at what is an essay, we've looked at kind of the different parts and all that. Now we're going to get into more specific things here. So the first thing we want to talk about is there are 5 steps of the process: pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and proofreading. We have discussed several of these things, or we've looked at them in the previous readings, but let's talk about pre-writing. Pre-writing is also known as invention, and if you see here it says pre-writing should be messy, illogical, random, even profane. It only needs to make sense to the person who is doing it. Right. And so in this, I tell you that I don't pick up pre-writing because I don't want you to feel like you have to filter anything. That's kind of counter what pre-writing is supposed to do. Right. But pre-writing is an important stage in the writing process. And as it says up here, the stage is recursive. That means that these aren't necessarily things that you only do in this order, that you can go back and at any point in the writing process, you can come back and do some more pre-writing. If you hit a wall, you can use these techniques to kind of get more ideas or kind of loosen up your brain to get started writing again. So realize that this can be used at multiple stages along the way. Um, so again, pre-writing helps us get on paper our ideas. Until we start putting things on paper, we can't really make them any better. They're still stuck up in our head. So no matter how bad something is, get it on paper and then you can start editing and revising and making it better, right? So the purpose of pre-writing is to kind of clear your brain. Um, you can again do it to just try to figure out what you want to write about. You can pre-write to figure out what you want to say about what you want to write about, to kind of find ideas, that kind of stuff. And there are a variety of techniques, but I am listing the most common that you will find. And again, you're going to see in sections 2A and 2B of your handbook, there are more examples and strategies that they talk about. So the first one is called brainstorming, and this is just short, usually 5-minute activity where you're really just writing down words and phrases, anything that comes to your mind. So like for an assignment that asks you to write about, pick a topic to write about, you might use brainstorming to put down as many things that you can think of that you could write about, right? You're not writing sentences, you're definitely not writing paragraphs. This is just a really quick listing of things. Clustering is where you actually have um, bubbles and branches of things. If you click this link down here, it will show you an example of, I'm sorry, this link down here, it'll show you example of the first three types of that. But clustering is more visual and spatial. So you have a something that starts in the middle of the page that you put a circle around, and then you just branch off that circle and start putting down different ideas around it. And then from that next level of circles, you branch off more until you've got this whole bubble diagram, right? Free writing is 10 to 15 minutes timed where you don't stop writing. And it's hard because naturally when we stop and when we can't think of something to say, we pause. But free writing is about not allowing ourselves to pause. And so when you get to a point where you can't think of anything to say, you just might write nonsense words or whatever comes to your mind. And eventually your brain will get back on track. But it's a really great way to get a lot of stuff on paper. The journalism questions answer who, what, where, when, why, and how. They're used by journalists to get all the facts and the different angles of a piece, so they can be very helpful, especially when you're trying to write an argument, trying to figure out who would be interested, who was involved, why did it happen, those kind of things. The journalism questions come in handy. So again, I don't pick this up because I want you to feel free to write whatever comes to your head. The important thing is to do pre-writing. And the thing I think gets students confused is that they'll just jump right in and start writing an essay and they don't really necessarily have an idea of what their thesis is or where they're going. If you don't know those things, then you're not writing an essay. You are pre-writing. You're still in that discovery invention phase. And so you don't really start writing an essay until you know what your thesis is and you know the 3 points that you're going to make to support it so that you have an idea of the outline of your piece, right? That doesn't mean that there's still not a whole lot of work to do and that you're not going to go back and revise and all that. But if you don't even know what the message is of your piece, then you're not writing an essay, right? So this is the stage where we kind of start sussing out those details, putting all of our options and then being able to pick which one's better. Because again, until we get it on the page, we can't do anything with it. All right. So we're going to move on to the next part, which is talking about thesis statements and introductions.